Your lipstick stains.
Parents, Dickie. Legion's closed. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Natch roast. Well, first of all, I need to thank everybody for bringing the food. The Hartford crew, White River crew, paying for the hall. Got us some barbecue. UniFirst gave us $1,000 to pay for some things. Boy, everybody showed. So before we get going here, I'm going to give us this, how we got to tonight. The first person that needs to come up here and sit down in this chair for 5 or 10 minutes. Behind every good man is a great woman. She's been through hell and back. She's not done yet. Share more. Just sit in that chair for a few minutes. What a woman. So how we got here, everybody knows Natch's first battle. He went 3.5 years in remission with his brain tumor. On October 14th of this year, I was down in Philadelphia about 1:30 in the afternoon with my golf team, and I got a phone call from Shannon. She was crying. She was in an ambulance. She was going to Mass General. She thought Natch had a brain tumor again. I was crying. I got in the van with my team. I said I would be home by 10 from Philly. I'll drive down to Mass General. I got in the van. The kids knew something was wrong with me. I told them Natch was sick again. We drove home, except we got intercepted by a tire that came through our windshield on the way home. So I never got there that night. It was a long night. We were very fortunate. Shannon called me the night. I called her actually as soon as we had the accident at the side of the road, said I wouldn't be there tonight. I called her in the morning. She told me Natch's brain tumor was back. I said, how's he doing? He's very confused. I gave him a couple days. I called him. I said, how are you doing? He said, not good. I said, when did you know it was back? He said, I knew 3 weeks ago. I said, how did they figure it out? He said, I forgot my kids' names. And I get it why he didn't tell anybody. He didn't want to go through it again. So then I asked him, what are you going to do? He said he was going to fight it. Tough twice. Since that night, I've probably slept 5 nights in 90 days. I never went to sleep last night. And the whole time I thought it was the accident about my kids, how that could happen to us. But then last Thursday night at 4:17 in the morning, I realized that it was this fucking roast is why I couldn't sleep. And you know what? You guys all showed up. And I know that I'm going to sleep tomorrow night. Because that's what it was. And you guys came for Natch. It's awesome. So here we are. Immediately I said to Shannon, we need to do something. I don't know what it is. I called T. Manzo like I've always done. I said, we need to do something for Natch. We need to have a roast. And for some reason, I came up with December 1st. I mean, that was just ridiculous. So we canceled that. We came to the night. I had a few goals here. My first goal was to invite the people through Natch's eyes. Then you're here. The second one was that I had no idea where he would be at this point from that 3 months ago. I didn't know what would be happening. He needs a boost, and this is it. We're here for the boost. He's halfway through chemo. His tumor's shrunk. His swelling's down inside his head. You see him, he's Natch. He looks different tonight, but I tell you, don't be deceived. Still got the big heart, great sense of humor, feels like shit. He's going to sit up here tonight and he's going to take it like a man. You know, he drove up yesterday and Shannon says, we need to stop at Mass General. I think he's really sick. So I got him on the phone. I said, let me talk to him. I said, how you feeling? He goes, I'm feeling terrible. I can't breathe. I said, do you know why you're coming here? He goes, I have no idea. I said, you're going to a roast. He said, Jesus Christ, I'll be up. So here he is. And the last thing I wanted to do, I want these next 8 hours to be cancer-free for him. I want us to have fun. I want him to have fun. I want Shannon to have fun. Shannon's not having any fun. Shannon had fun last night. She drank, what, 8 bottles of wine? You know what? Shannon doesn't have a lot of fun. You know what? We got the kids. They're babysitting. This is fun for Shannon. And it's going to be fun for Natch to a point. Right? We've got people here tonight from Seattle. Marty Brown comes in from Florida. Hotlanta. And, you know, all the same people. We've done this is our 16th time together. I've definitely taken this too serious, to be honest with you. Because if you're not sleeping for weeks at a time, you need to find something better to do, quite honestly. I figured that out finally. But I'm glad everybody came. I know this is going to be the funnest night. And when we're done, we're going to play music and we're going to drink. And I hope Natch can hang out with us. We love you, kid. We do. So now, we're going to trade places here. If there was ever a guy who deserved a standing ovation, it's Jimmy Moore. Come on, Jimmy, up here. Let's go. Are you drinking tonight? Yeah. What? So let's slide that table over. I'll get it, Sean. It goes down. Yeah, you've done enough for the last 5 years. What are you drinking? What are you really drinking? Okay. We'll take a beer break when Natch has to go to the bathroom. All right? Nice. I've got like 8 or 9 speakers we have. Listen, if you want to get up, I know there's some people here who probably should speak but are uncomfortable. This really ain't a group to be uncomfortable with. This is a good group of people. So, you got something to say. Now, there's a fine line here between gross and fun. Okay? Let's have some fun. Let's make pretend we're on the radio. Okay? Except you can swear. Okay? So our first speaker, probably the best. I love to hear this guy speak. For me, in my 50-something years, guy never cries. He's very funny. He's unlike me, basically. But he flew in from Florida, retired last year from Deershire High School. We had 14 friggin' retirement parties. I went to 13 of them. He was our coach growing up. He was the guy that we wanted to be like. And I'll tell you, besides Pat Walsh and Jimmy Vandy, he's the most important guy in our lives. Marty Brown. Okay, so Natchy has Natchy's going to have a microphone here tonight. And if he gets pissed, he'll come back at you.
Good evening, and I want to first thank Richard for calling me, and what a privilege and honor it is to be here tonight to celebrate a couple of things. Lebanon and the community that comes around on things of this nature, and certainly the courage of not only Jimmy, but his family and friends for the support that they've given him throughout these years.
Turn it up, Red. This is this. Talk like you're calling in. That's it.
Yeah, all right.
Next up, how's that?
Okay, I can talk louder, I just didn't want to. I also wanted to start with just saying, you know, we have two real stories to celebrate here tonight, in addition to Jim. And that's the Billy Baker and Jim, Leafy Lehar, who played with me in high school, who've had remarkable recoveries, and maybe we could give them a show of support. Thanks for what they do. We're talking to them and see what they're doing. You know, I'm not funny. I'm not going to be very comedic about Jimmy, but I have a series of things that I'd like to share that will be little snippets of things that I saw over the years with him. I had the privilege of coaching him in baseball and in football. I was an assistant coach at Lebanon High School during his younger days, and then I got a chance to understand him as a friend and a kind of a, you know, even though I'm older, kind of a peer. It was like he was a buddy of mine for a while, especially when I was younger. And the thing that strikes me most about him, it was never about him, it was always about everybody else. And he's always put everybody else's feelings first, and he's always provided certainly a sense of humor. He's certainly somebody you can laugh with, and many times at, because he does have a history of doing some different things that create humor. And while I could go into many of them, and I think that's for other people to do. What strikes me is, I've been around sports my whole life, and the thing that I loved about sports, when I saw Patty Bagley here, I haven't given Lisa a hug yet, who I see, but I will. And I've had a chance to work in the area of team building. And I'm struck by, I always come back to my roots at Lebanon when I think about teams. Because that's where I learned it all, and how a community kind of raises its children. And how people in this community always rise to the occasion to support each other. So when I see Jimmy's football kids come in the back door here, that he played high school football with today, and I haven't seen Paul Prescott since he hit probably the biggest home run ever hit in the history of Lebanon, that no one here probably remembers, when we won a state championship in 1979 behind Woody, and of course Natch was the MVP of the team. And Mike Monica and Tom Dupree, all these different guys that just snuck in the back door. They played football with Jimmy. I don't know how often they see him now, but boy, they needed to see him. They're here, just like all of you people are. So that's very, I think, very positive thing that you can take home about yourselves, because that's really special. Jimmy stood for some things that I think we wish we could all stand for. He was a hard-nosed player, not a gifted, not a G&T'er. You know, he wasn't gifted and talented. The guy couldn't run well. He had poor hands. He couldn't jump. And he had, you know, he really had questionable hand-eye coordination. He punted for us in football, and I was an assistant. And the biggest concern we had first, you know, most punters, big responsibility, let's catch the snap. You are a varsity athlete, so let's put the ball over the line of scrimmage with some level of hang time. And there were a couple occasions where his footwork, being kind of a left-handed punter, a left-footed punter rather, would cause him to kick the ball off the ass of the person in front of him and negate our total yardage figure for the game. But he was, you know, he had all the pads. He was a gear guy. You know, he was always a guy that had the paint on, the thumb pads, the little hand thing you'd slide on before the game. And, you know, he'd pump to everybody, and then you'd call hand dive left, and he never blocked the guy in front of him, and opened many holes. So that was problematic for us. But that's not really true. I'm just really kidding about it. He was really about giving everything he had to the team. And he was tough, physical, aggressive. He was, if you played anything with him, he came out for baseball. I had him in that special year that we had in '79. And he became kind of our number 3 guy. behind. One guy pitched for the Red Sox, and the other guy was one of the best left-handers who's ever picked up a baseball in this area, Scotty Davis. And Natch became a very productive pitcher. Now, he never pitched in any of the big moments. And if there's anybody here from certain places, don't take this personally. So he pitched in the Mascoma game. He pitched against Newport. He didn't pitch against Concord and Nashua and Rochester and Keene. He never batted very often. Because, you know, he just didn't get those opportunities. But his sense of teamwork and his commitment to others was unbelievable. And so now here I am at the end of the whole experience in my lifetime, watching somebody fight something that God's chosen to give him as a challenge. And his true signs come out from his athletic days. Perseverance, commitment to the team. He still has a family. He still has relationships. He still honors those in the midst of all the suffering that he's had to encounter. He is a visionary, because he has to project and look ahead. Leify and I were just talking about this, and believe that he can conquer something when doctors and medical people tell him he can't. How do people do that? Because most of us never get thrown that curveball. And when we observe it, we're, in a way, I think that we're really watching, not in an athletic way, Jim, so I don't want you to take it the wrong way. We're watching greatness, courage, conviction. We're watching someone who is teaching all of us the value of life and how it should be lived. And I think that you bring so much to others that they have always had the privilege to have you as their friend, that it's really quite overwhelming to see them all here tonight, sharing this time with you. And I'm down in Florida. I'm like I'm like the lead custodian down there right now. But I was with the Gators in football, and I'm with them in basketball and baseball, where I'm on the sidelines, volunteer work, and so it's not as ego inflating. It hasn't assisted me in my legend in my own mind status that I've enjoyed over the years. But I watched the football team this year at Florida. I was right on the field for all the home games. 92,000 of my Closest friends joining me every Saturday at 3:30. Right? And they were projected to go 8-4, which in Florida is not enough. They won 11-1. And this is what I saw from the sidelines. Unbelievable commitment to team. Energy. Aggressiveness. Made the big plays. And Natch already made one big play. He survived about one. That in itself was a miracle. So now his challenge is to survive about two. And it's going to take the same types of things. So I thought it was appropriate, at least, to bring something down as kind of a gift. You know, it's nothing major. The good thing about Nike is it stretches. Right? And so I got him a Gator football shirt. You know, it's like, not your colors, I know, but they're now mine. And a Gator cap, with the hope that, even though it says Gators, what it really hopefully is saying is thank you, good luck, and again, I can't thank Richard and the family for everything they're doing, and the friends here who will be here to fight the fight with Jimmy, and I'll be fighting at St. Augustine Church. There's a homeless shelter that I'm working at down there now. I go in and pretend to be important for about 5 hours. I'm the only white guy in the facility. And I'll be praying for you on a regular basis. Okay, buddy? All right, thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much.
Marty, forget about that ass whipping Florida took from Louisville. 11-2. Were you on the sidelines for that ball game? You were coaching. I wish. Okay, good job, Marty. Thank you. Big effort to get in. Great. For guys who don't know Marty, the best coach within 100 miles. Better baseball coach than basketball. You missed your call. You're a great basketball coach, but you're a great baseball coach. I'll tell you one quick story about Marty before I call the next call. We were playing down in Windsor. Marty always had the fungo bat. He was the fungo king. He always threw it up with the opposite hand, you know, not like this. Boom. I come around third base. Marty's running with me. He's base coaching. I slide head first. Belt buckle stuck right in my gut. The umpire comes skipping down. Marty screaming at him. Jesus Christ, he was in there by miles. I looked up, covered with dirt, and I said, Marty, I'm a foot short. We get back to the dugout. Don't you ever embarrass me in front of the ump. All right, next on the agenda is Natch's brother, Jackie Moore.
Jackie Moore.
He said, don't be scared.
I did. Well, as Rich said, for those of you who don't know who's left from our tight-knit family,
Talking to that mic, Jackie.
I am Jim's older and always better-looking brother, Jack. Don't be scared, Jim. I don't have anything incriminating to say, but I can't vouch for the rest of the people that are going to be up here tonight. Let me start by saying Jim went to bed until he was 10. Oh, wait, that was...
24.
Actually, my punchline was, oh wait, that was me, never mind. When he was a toddler, we were all at the lake in Vermont one day swimming and having a cookout. The grill was one of those round, low-to-the-ground kind, and Mom had just taken the rack off so we could toast marshmallows. When she turned around to get them, Jim backed up and sat right in the coals with a nylon bathing suit on. It melted right to his ass, and we had to rush him to the hospital. It wasn't funny then, but it's funny now. And from that day on, he was the nonconformist of the family. He never liked playing by the rules in our household. Our dad was kind of on the cheap side, so whenever we went out to dinner, he would tell us before we went in to take it easy on what we ordered. Our sister Debbie and I would order haddock or something along that line, and when it was Jim's turn, he would order steak and lobster tails. And we would all look at him, and he would look at us like, what? We were always a skiing family, and Jim was the daredevil. You could look in the garage in the off-season, and Dad's, mine, and Debbie's skis would be clean and standing with our poles, and then Jim's would be like whole ski, broken ski, bent poles, broken ski. During Jim's high school years, I had moved to Florida, and Mom would write or call to let me know that they had gotten another new car because Jim had totaled another one on prom night. In the late 80s, Jim and I both flew here from where we were living for our sister's funeral. When we were heading home, we were all at the Lebanon airport, and Jim was telling Mom and Dad about some of the crazy shit we had done during our younger years, and Dad was always a worrier, so he was freaking out, and Jim said, wait a few years and we'll tell you the shit we're doing now. When Jim married his beautiful, terrific wife, Shannon, I was a little disappointed that I was not asked to be in the wedding, but I drank more back then than I do now, believe it or not, so I think he was a little worried. I felt much better that evening, though, when Jim was passed out drunk in the middle of Rich and Barb's living room floor in their suite at the Harborview. But I was thrilled by how much Jim's staff there adored and respected him. He is funny, smart, and kind to everyone around him. And I know the doctors and nurses at Mass General feel the same way. Sorry.
You can cry like that.
No. Nope. Jim, I know that you and I aren't the closest brothers in the world, but we have stuck together.
I find that much wrong there.
I don't think they've heard a fucking thing.
But we have stuck together through all of the hell our family has gone through the past 25 years. And I want you to know that I love you, and there isn't a thing in this world I wouldn't do for you, and Shannon, and the boys, as long as it doesn't involve money, because you know I'm broke. I love you. I love you.
The only reason Jack was on the waiting list for my wedding party, and then he didn't get chosen, was because the priest showed up.
Oh, Jack. Oh, you boys are beautiful. All right. We're gonna go. I don't have a joke about Jack.
Oh, yes, you do.
I bet you do. You don't have a joke about Jack?
Oh, come on, I can make one.
Let's keep roasting. Last night he told me he was gonna cry for 3 hours, now he wants to keep roasting. All right, we're gonna go with Natch's ski coach in high school, great guy, Tim Fisher.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tim Fisher, and I had a great pleasure at the wise old age of 23 of coming to Lebanon, New Hampshire to teach English. But I have a confession to make because they so desperately wanted a ski coach, they didn't mind the fact that I wasn't an English teacher. And I majored in history. The superintendent came in to meet me and he said, you know, I hear you're quite a skier, Tim. I just want to make sure you know the language. And I said, I do. And he shook my head and he said, congratulations, welcome to Lebanon High School. Well, 23, you're not particularly well skilled at teaching, and I didn't really know teaching English, but I faked it pretty well. But in Natch's class, we had Mike Monica and John Hefka and Mike Monica and Patty Bagley, and I think we did all right. But what I remember most about you, Jim, is an incredibly infectious smile. Incredibly happy to be in my class, whether he'd done his homework or not. He was always happy to be there. But I really had a tremendous pleasure in coaching Jim both in ski jumping and alpine ski racing. And I still want to know where he got that nickname Natural, because I'm not convinced it fits. But I'll tell you, as his brother and Mike have mentioned, nobody had a bigger heart. Nobody loved sports. Nobody loved his team more than Jim did. And he was a tremendous ski racer, tremendously talented. If he had one thing, didn't have one thing, that was fear. I mean, you get going pretty high rates of ski racing, and I can remember many times at Whaleback where we'd set a course and Jim would come through. He didn't care if the tree was 6 inches away or 12 inches away. He was going balls to the wall, full speed all the time, and had a lot of really, really good ski races. We had a wonderful time. My first year I decided what these guys really needed. You couldn't be a real ski racer unless you'd ski Tuckerman's Ravine. And growing up in Lebanon, they probably didn't have the chance. So we took Ed Sanborn's car, and Dupe, and John, and Chuk, and Nate Seymour, and Spencer, and I. We went over and spent the night at my parents' house to ski Tuckerman's. And my dad, I'm not sure why he said this, but he says, you know, they're smelting down in Sucker Brook. You boys should go down and do some smelting tonight. I don't know if you remember this, Jim.
I remember.
So they all went down smelting, and of course smelting is you go to the stream and you scoop up little fish and you bring them home and you eat them whole. Well, they were heading down and they started a snowball fight, and Nate Seymour decided to run ahead, and Natch hit him in the back of the head with a snowball. So Nate decided he'd go down the trail, climb up in a tree and wait for these guys to come, and he would jump on them in the dark and scare the living hell out of them. Well, unfortunately, Nate didn't realize that other people were smelting that night. And they were also drinking, and you can't smelt unless you've had a lot to drink. So this poor smelter came down the trail with his flashlight and his bucket, and Nate was 10 feet up in the tree. And he jumped out of that tree and nailed this guy. Flattened him right out. The guy's like 40 years old, half drunk, and not very happy. So as I remember, shoot, when they told me that, I decided to go with them. The guy had one arm cocked in his back, Nate off the ground with the neck of his shirt, about ready to cock him. And I think it was Juke that, as they came up on the trail, said, "Yeah, he was throwing snowballs at us. Hit him once for us, too."
Goddamn right.
So we finally got the boys in bed around 11 o'clock, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, my dad came over to my bedroom and he goes, "What the hell's wrong with these kids? They're 11 and don't they ever sleep?" And I had to go quiet Natch and the boys down. But we had a great time skiing at Tuckerman's. But my well, two favorite stories about Natch. I still hope I hear why his nickname is Natch tonight, but the only 2 ski practices I missed in the 3 years I coached at Lebanon High School, he ended up in the emergency room. The first time we were in the locker room, apparently they were in the locker room and they got the towels wrapped up and they were doing rat tails and snapping everybody, and Natch jumped up on a bench, slipped and fell and broke his nose.
I don't know if breaking my nose is the right end of the story. My nose was gone. Honest to God, it was gone. My nose was gone.
But, of course, Jim did have, as many guys did in high school, interest in the opposite sex. And there's one gal, Lynn Griffiths, he really thought was a cutie. And there's nothing like impressing a girl than showing off your athletic prowess. So we were over at Storrs Hill. Actually, again, I missed the practice, but they were at Storrs Hill. We were having alpine practice. And Jim decided what would really make Lynn fall in love with him was to show her how far he could jump off the 20-meter ski jump. But he had alpine skis on, and they were training alpine. So rather than climb up the trestle and come down the ski jump, Natch decided he would start at the very top of Storrs Hill, get in the tuck, ski straight down the slope, and jump the hill. Well, if you know physics at all, the ending is not pretty. Natch had an incredible jump. He out-jumped the landing hill, and after the transition, the slope runs uphill like this, so at about probably 40 miles an hour, Natch, I guess you could use the word pitoned himself into the landing hill. Oddly enough, Lynn did not fall in love with him. But when I went to see him at his mom and dad's house, it was quite interesting to see how they wired his jaw closed. Because he did break his jaw. Fearless, big-hearted, wonderful guy. It's been a pleasure to know you, Jim, and I wish you the very best, because you can do the things you've done and survive. I know you're going to survive this.
Thank you, Tim.
Is there a statute of limitation for a ski coach? There's more to that story. Loverboy was showing off. He did fly the landing. His knees came up into his jaw, broke his jaw. They were wired shut. But he didn't stop drinking. He found a straw. And then one night, he drank too much out of that fifth of vodka, and he had to cut all those rubber bands. So he could throw up. But he was getting ready for his senior year of skiing, Mr. Fisher. I actually thought it was Joan Frankenstein.
It was.
I called her husband to get her here. He never returned the call.
Sure he didn't.
I'm going to get to that later. You didn't go out with some pretty women. All right. You all right? It's fun, right? It's going to get a little better here. We're graduating. Okay, next on the docket is one of Natch's fraternity brothers, Steve King. Come on, Stevie, here we go.
I thought of a lot of great stories from college, and I realized that after I rethought about them and thought about them, most of them I can't tell, even today in this situation. But I think the thing that, when I went to see Natch and I heard he was sick, I went up to the cancer ward at Mass General, and they were like, he's down the room, you know, they were talking about how wonderful he was as a human being and as a life coach. And I'm standing at the door, and he's not in his bed. And so I was like, oh God, you know, what happened? And I'm standing there, and then I hear in the background in his voice, he goes, doctor, I'm hallucinating. And I turn around, and there's Natch talking to a doctor, and he goes, there's a guy in my doorway that can't possibly be there. And the doctor looked at me and goes, who are you? I go, I'm Steve King. And he's like, well, King Snake, is that it's really you? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, I thought I was hallucinating. I go, yeah, we called that Wednesday night in Plymouth. And, so, you know, we went to school together, and when we were pledging, Jim was a legend, and we came into the fraternity, and they built up this guy who was about 10 feet tall, could bench press 500 pounds, had wrestled Sasquatch and taken pictures of him. And he comes down, and he's got his dip in, and he's a little slovenly, and he's drinking beer. And I think the one life skill I got from Jim was that he taught me how to dip and drink beer at the same time. So thank you. That's worked well for me in parties as life is going on. He was, I'm not really sure if he was a student, if he was just hanging out at the house. I actually never saw him attend a class. I can testify that he did wet the bed till he was 24, just to validate that. He had a special couch for him that we called the Natch couch. It was waterproof. And what I would tell you this, I didn't prepare remarks. I wasn't sure if I was going to be prepared to do this, but Jim was Jim and Tony Manzo were older brothers for me when I pledged, and I looked up to both of them. Typically I had to drop to my knees to look up to Tony because he's like 4 feet tall. Just a shot at Tony. But, you know, Jim was a great friend, a great mentor. He was kind. I never understood why women liked him as much as they did, but they did. I always found that strange. It was his rugged good looks, personality. But he's a fighter, and you know, when you heard the bad news a few years ago, you were pretty positive that, you know, he could beat it. And as it circles back around, I'm pretty positive that we'll all be here in 3 or 4 years talking about him again and making fun of him. And you know, I went up to him tonight and you know, shared my love with him, and he was like, yeah, I can't remember much. I'm like, what are you dipping? He's like, Copenhagen. And so I know that he's going to be okay. So, but I would tell you that he was somebody I looked up to when I was in college for the reasons of he was kind, he was a good man, he set a bar, and every story I have from college that he's in is better. It's a belly laugh story. I wish I could tell some of them, but I don't want to embarrass him and myself. But we had fun, and I will throw him one set of props where I've never seen anybody drink a bottle of grain alcohol in 15 seconds since that night. I think he thought it was water. And
You gotta be good at something.
But you know, the hopes and prayers are that we're here again. You know, thank Rich for doing this and including me. I wish I could share some of the stories, but I can't. But I do. When I look at them tonight, I'm still like, if we were out tonight in Plymouth and we could go back in time, the girls would still like him more than they liked me, and I could still not understand that. He was good looks, rugged personality. How many guys can drink a beer and dip at the same time and never do anything with it? So, Jim, I hope, well, Rich Parker too. So, it must be a Lebanon thing. So, my hopes and prayers are with you, Natch. I cherish the friendship. I was telling my kids about him the other day, and I was telling them, I said, I always thought his nickname Natch came from that he liked to drink too much and walk around naked occasionally at parties. But I found out it was because of his love for natural light. So I'm going to stick with the naked at parties, because even then the girls still liked him. And I can tell you about how gifted he was in other areas as well.
That's what the good Lord gave me, ladies.
I know a bunch of the guys came up, and there were a bunch of guys that couldn't. I know Tony Albright and Brent Onufrak in particular wanted me to share, send their love. They couldn't make it. Brent's daughter has gotten engaged too young, much like he did in college. So, but God bless and love you.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you, I roomed with the guy for 15 years and I got sick of looking at what the good Lord gave him. How about this though? This is like, that was like winning the megabucks right there. We found the only guy in the world who looked up to frickin' Natch and Tony Manzo. Unbelievable. Oh, he's looked up to you, kid. So I was on the bottom bunk. All right. This next guy is a professional. Not that Steve wasn't. Always comes to the greenie. Is a giver. He's got 1 million kids. I think his family's up skiing somewhere today. He came down. One of my favorite guys to see once a year, Petey Ferrelli.
Thanks for that, Rich. Appreciate it. And Jim, it's an honor to be up here and speaking on your behalf about you. There's some good stories, for sure. I love Jim. I've loved him for a long time. He meant from the moment I met him, and I'm not coming out of the closet right now, but he's got a big heart. Everybody knows that. I'm saying the same thing everyone says. But I really loved him, and I stayed in touch with him for years since I met him in college. And there are a couple of distinct points of reference that I want to share with you today as I think about Jim. The first time I met him, my first experience with him at Phi Beta, our fraternity, and then another point later on in life when I was following his career, his professional career. I went to Plymouth State with a lot of the guys in the room, and I was a freshman in 1981, and I ended up in a dormitory on a sophomore or upperclassman type of floor. I was the only freshman on the floor. On this floor were Rich Parker, Steve Greenberg, as everyone knows, Greedy, Tony Manzo, Jay McAllister, Paul Scirocco, Tom Dupree, Dennis Keglovich, Bob Guy, and a few other guys that never came out of the room because they smoked dope non-stop 24 hours a day. That's true. So my first, how I got there, I have no idea. All the freshmen lived on another floor. I ended up with these guys the first day of school, first week or two. They're all very nice. Hey, how are you? Hey, nice to see you. Yeah, you're new here. Yeah, right. Okay. Come on down to the room once in a while. We'd like to have a beer or two. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll come down. Came down, Hey, we have a new friend here. His name is Jim. Hey, Jim. How are you? Yeah, Jim. Hey, Jim Moore from Lebanon. Welcome to Plymouth State. Okay, good. Thanks. You guys are really great. So didn't think much about it. Had a few beers with him and left. And I used to come down, and Tony Manzo will tell you the story. I would watch from my room down the hall where these guys lived, and I'd be like, what the hell are they doing down there? Noise and beer cans, and one time there was a pig that lived in Rich's room for like 3 or 4 months. A baby pig, lived in the closet. And I was like, hey, who are these people? First experience with going into the bathroom one morning, okay, I'm a good freshman, I'm kind of tough, I'm athletic, I'm coming in, I'm thinking I'm good. I walk into the bathroom, Everybody's naked, they're soaping each other up, they're all rubbing each other's backs. Sirocco's got the shampoo, he's soaping. I'm like, there's something missed here. I think I went to P-Town College instead of the mistake. In all seriousness, as I began to meet this guy, Jim Moore, he said to me one night, I was going away for the weekend, we were chatting, and he said, hey, because he didn't really go to school there, like King said. He didn't go to class. He was around all the time, but, who is this guy? He's like, works here or something, I don't know. But I said, hey, Jim, stay in my room for the week. I'm headed out, I'm going somewhere tonight. My roommate's gone. My roommate was a guy I didn't even know. Take our room. Big mistake. Big mistake. Came back at the end of the weekend, opened up the door. Not one, but 2 mattresses are being aired out on the side of the room. Aired out. It was classic. I know, I'm not going to say what you did on those mattresses, but people who know Jim, and his brother said he peed his bed till 9 or 12, or it kept going at that point. So that was a big lesson learned. Do not ever let Jim Moore sleep in your bed. That's a true story too. It's true. My roommate hated me for that. So, next story. Fraternity pledging. Jim Moore was a big fraternity brother. He was well known. He had a reputation that was bigger than life. I mean, it was. So the first night, I'll try not to be this. Anyways, I'll tell a story. First night of pledging, and we're down in the this is how pledging worked. For those of you who didn't know it, you're in the basement of this dark and cold and smelly house. They've made you drink probably a half a keg of beer per person at this point. Every night for 5 weeks, you drink more beer than you can possibly handle, and then they do all kinds of stuff to you. But on the first few nights, we were being told that this guy, Jim Moore, Natch, was going to show up at some point. I had already had the pleasure of meeting him, but he was going to show. And he was going to tell you what it was like to be a brother in the fraternity. So there were 12 or 13 or 11 of us lined up. Tony Manzo was what was called a pledge master. He was an assistant to a guy named Jim Grippo, and so was Greeny. Greeny was the other pledge master. So you can imagine the kind of torment and hazing that went on there. I can't even repeat it. I can't even tell my wife, that's how bad it is. Down comes Jim Moore, bigger than life, walking down. It's probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, he's strolling on down. Everybody literally is standing in a line, at attention, shaking. Knees are shaking. You're sitting there and you're like, here's Jim Moore. And again, we probably drank 2 kegs of beer among the 11 of us. He comes down and says, you bunch of fucking pussies. You know what it's like to be a brother? We're like, no. No one says a word, they can't say a word. Jim walks up and down the line, up and down the line. He's got a chew in his mouth, big chew. Never forget this. Takes the chew out of his mouth, puts it back in, swallows it. He asked to have the pledge mug filled. The pledge mug, and I'm telling secrets, guys, out of Beta. But pledge mug holds 6 beers. Asked to have it filled, drinks the pledge mug down. 6 beers. Down. 1. And that's something you have to do at some point. Every guy in that line pissed their pants after they watched him do that. And he said, that's what it's like to be a brother here in this fraternity. That is the level of commitment that you need to make. And 3 guys quit on the spot. 2 guys ran out of the house. And the rest of us that stayed started a relationship with one of the best guys, one of the best brothers in the history of Phi Beta. Absolutely no question. He was incredibly supportive. He got to know every single guy in that house. Biggest heart. Everybody loved him. Again, he had no place to live, so he needed a lot of friends. But the last after graduating and years went by, I wanted to stay in touch with Jim. I always did. I always made an effort to see him. I started vacationing on Martha's Vineyard. I heard he was down there. And I heard he was working at the Harbor View Hotel, which is, some of you have been there. It's a 5-star resort hotel in Martha's Vineyard in the harbor of Edgartown. And I'm like, hadn't seen Jim since college, since he ate the chew and drank the 6 beers and pissed in my bed. So, like, he's working at a pretty nice hotel. I wonder what he's doing, like washing dishes or something like that, maybe, I don't know. So I went down there and I said, you know, went into the hotel, it was at night, was by myself. Is Natch around? Who? Is Natch around? Nope. You know, Jim Moore? Oh, Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore. Wow. What does Mr. Moore do? He's the food and beverage manager for the Harbor View. I'm like, wow, holy shit. It's a good job. And he's also the sommelier. I'm like, sommelier? What the fuck is that? They're like, he is the guy that tastes the wine, he recommends wine. I'm thinking, this is the guy that ate chew and drank 6 beers. What could he possibly taste? But it was a skill that he had. You're a fantastic sommelier. So I said, well, is he here? And he said, no, he's not. I said, well, can you call him? Because, you know, I'm an old friend and I'd like to see him. And it was probably like, I don't know, 6 o'clock, 5:30 p.m. And the guy was really hesitant to do it, the bartender, but he said, after some urging, he said, I'll call him. Okay, I'll call him at home. Makes the phone call. The bartender, I can see the phone sort of come away from his ear a little bit, and I hear this noise, like something like, what the fuck are you calling me for? And the guy's, obviously, he's nervous now. Mr. Moore, he's saying, Mr. Moore is a friend of yours here, his name is Peter Farrelly. Phone comes back to his ear, talks for a few minutes, the man hangs up, he said, Mr. Moore said everything's on the house for you tonight. I said, thank you, so lobster tails, sommelier, bring the wine, come on, let's do it. Beta, right? But it's you know, it's why I love Jim. I've loved him since the first night I saw him. I met him. I wasn't turned off by what I saw. I was very, very, very impressed by what a huge heart and what a good friend he was to everyone he touched at Plymouth, where we all knew him. Absolutely loved him, and it was fun to stay in touch with him over the years. And it didn't matter. Hadn't seen him for years. Show up at Martha's Vineyard and he'd welcome me and my family. There'd always be stuff on the house. I'd say, no, don't do it. He'd offer up, you know, he'd give us anything. And, you know, it's a privilege to be up here. The stories are funny. You've done a lot of things. You are probably the most interesting man. I said to Rich the other day, the most interesting man in the world. You've done so many things. You've touched so many lives. So many people love you, and it's just great to be here. Any chance I get to come and see you and Rich and everybody, really, but any chance I get, I make the effort because I love to. And I'll be there to continue to do that for you. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Peter.
He knew everybody in the frat because he never left it. See, I know all these stories. I'm just going to try to fill in the gaps right now.
Question.
Yeah.
Why you have a pig in here?
I don't know why we had that pig. We went up to Leafy's farm, we got a pig. We didn't have it for 3 months. The thing had the freaking runs. It killed that run. We actually ended up giving it to a guy in Plymouth who raised it like 350 pounds. He couldn't kill it. It was a pet. It was actually cool because a lot of girls wanted to see the pig. The RA called me in. He said, we called him Arnie, obviously, Ziffel. And the RA, the head guy, called me in his office. He goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You wouldn't be stupid enough to have a pig in your room, would you?" I said, "I definitely would not." He said, "Do you have any idea how much bacteria that would bring to your room?" I said, "I've got an idea." So we only had that pig for 3 or 4 days, but it seemed like 3 or 4 months. Good job, Pete. Now, there's a lot of deciphering about where Natch came from. It's just a reversal. Nothing besides drinking came natural to him. That's basically what it is. The guy could walk down a street with no pebbles, no branches, no sewers, and sprain his ankle. So there's no myth. That's just the way it was. And this guy is kind of funny when I speak, and I'll say it now, but you know, it's like we all have a nickname. Like John Mahefka's Chew, right? Tommy Dupree's Duke. Leify Lehart is Leif. Natch is Jim. Jimmy, Natural, Elvin, El Natural, Load. I mean, the guy's got like 14 names. Tonight it's Smiling. All right, now we're gonna graduate. So Natch leaves Plymouth. And he was there for 6 years. He had 3 credits. That wasn't a myth that he didn't have any classes. Because he lived in my room for about 4 of those years. Kept his mattress under the bed, and it was wet. So now we're going to graduate to the guys when Natch, we moved to Montana after college. Me, Chook, Nate, Snatcheroo. He never came home. He went with Rockefeller. He went with the Rock Resorts. And he cruised the strip. Hawaii, Colorado, St. Croix, Arizona. Freaking worldly bastard for 3 credits. Right? So anyways, these next 3 guys, the guys who had a chance to work with Natch and fill in the blanks of the 15 years that we had no idea what you were doing. We can only imagine. Right? So we're going to call up John Murray. John, you want to come up? Laddie. John's got a broder, too.
John Murray worked his vineyard, worked with Jim, Mick. I call him Mick. That's another name he has, so, because he named me as Mick because I'm Irish, so straight out of Dublin, and moved to the vineyard. And Jim taught me a lot about life and how to relax and how to get a sense of humor out of people. But we would play tricks on each other a lot, you know, so. Who's the guy that you were going to buy the bicycle off?
Al Lynn.
Alan Lynn? He's here?
Alan's right there.
Alan, right there. I never met you, but I sure heard a lot about this bike. So I went down to We'll Be Happy. It's a rental bike store in Eggertown. I bought a bike for myself, you know. I said, Jim, I got to get exercise, you know. He says, I got a buddy. He said, he's a professional bike seller. And I'm going to get a bike too. So I'll call him up. So he called him up. I said to Jim about a week later, I says, you get a bike coming? He says, yeah, he's going to send me a bike. You know, it's a $7,000 bike, and I'm going to get it for $800. Like, Jim, just go down to We'll Be Happy. You'll get one for $100. You know, and it'll end up as your laundry drying thing in a corner rack. So, anyway, he says, no, I'm going to get this bike. So every week I asked Jim, because I was right outside his office, which was the wine room, and my office, the maintenance shop, were both in the cellar. And I would ask him once a week, he says, any sign of the bike? He says, he's gonna ship it next week. Okay. So next week comes. He said, is he shipping the bike? He said, well, I think he's gonna ship it, but I don't wanna call him. I don't wanna bother him. So this would go on for weeks. 4 or 5 weeks. The bike coming? I don't know. I think it's coming. So I got tired of this. I turned to Dick McCall, who was my boss, and says, I'm gonna fix Jim. There's a rusty old bike with no tires on it, still chained to the bike rack for the kids who were here last year down in the parking lot. He said, I'm gonna cut it up, I'm gonna put it in a box, tape it up. So I did. And I had this huge box. I went down to Wheel Be Happy. He says, you got one of those bicycle box, one that looks good? He says, yeah. So okay, so I got it. I stuck it in there, and there was no letter or nothing on this thing. This thing was disgusting. So I stuffed it in the box, taped it up, got UPS stickers, put it all over the thing. And we're at the Harborview, and I put it on the loading dock, and the receiver calls Jim. He says, Jim, there's a really big box here. It looks like it's a bike. He says, oh man, that's my bike. It got here. So he's down in the county. He's so excited. I mean, he's beyond himself. I've never seen him so excited about something. That's my bike. So Lisa Sorensen, the controller, she said, hey, my bike came. Oh, that's great, Jim. Everybody in the hotel knew what was going on. He says, yeah. So he goes out. He's telling everybody walking up the walkway. He says, hey, my bike came. He said, that's great news, Jim. So there's a crowd of people hanging around the loading dock. He never even clicks with him. There's something up. He said, hey, Jim, I think that's your... Yeah, I heard my bike's here. Yeah, it's right up there. So he goes up on the loading dock, and there's a little cutout hole in the corner. Hey, I'm at home. He says, Joe, we'll get out on the bike. We'll go on the bike path. That's it, great. So he's looking into the hole, and he says, I wonder what color it is. It looks kind of brown. Brown. Well, that's okay. I'll do a brown. So he said, do you want a box cutter? I said, yeah. And so the crowd's gathering. He's like, yeah, my bike's here. And so he goes over and we get a box cutter for him, and he cuts open the end of it, and he pulls open the carbon box, and this rusty wheel just rolls out, falls off the loading dock, and he looks at me, Marty, you fucking bastard! And I've never seen him run so fast, running after me down the driveway.
You're right, I'll tell you right now, it's the worst I've ever gotten in my life. There was like 25 people there pissing their pants
Laughing our ass off. I love everybody, I wish we had a camera for it. But he's a topper, he's the best, he taught me so much in life, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, John. Love that broke, man. How was that bike, kid?
I rode it once. I rode it about 8 miles from my house. I got a flat tire. I walked it home. I ain't fucking touched it since.
So did you buy that bike off Alan?
I bought it off Alan.
Okay, Alan, you're up. Here we go. Here we go, guys. Right from Seattle, Washington. Let me tell you a story about Alan. I met Alan at Natch's wedding. Were you there?
Yes.
Okay. I knew he was there.
You're absolutely there.
We weren't hanging out, but I definitely met him, because Greeny was here. But anyways, when I qualified for the Senior Open a couple of years ago, Scotty Peters was my caddy. But Scotty couldn't come till Wednesday. So Natch calls up, Alan, I'm playing in Seattle, right? So Alan shows up. He's practiced around US Open. Me and Alan on the first freaking tee, right? Me, Owen, Brown, Tom Byram, Kurt Byram, right? We're on the first tee. I don't miss a fucking shot for 18 holes. He thought I was Jack Nicklaus. We get done the round, he looks at me and goes, don't you think you should have missed a couple? I'm like, what? He goes, you can't play like that on Monday. I go, you know how many bad shots I've hit in my life? I'm taking all the good ones. Right? We come back Tuesday, I couldn't hit a freaking beach ball. We get done the round, I look down and I go, you feeling better now? That was awesome, Alan. I never knew Alan. He came out and caddied for me. We had a ton of fun, and I appreciated it. It was awesome. So cool to meet you. Here he is. There you go.
The rest of the story about Richie's round that day was, I was out of my element. He's like stars. Fuck, we're Sahali's narrow course, and we're playing with these pros, and it was really cool. And I was like, wow, Olin Brown and Kurt Bynum. And we played 9 holes with, remember Tom Lehman came out, we played 9 holes, Tom Lehman. I thought, this is cool. They have all these high-tech fucking devices, looking at the yardage, looking at the degree of the greens and the pitch. And fucking Richie's like, but they don't fucking read the yardage fucking markers? How they don't read the fucking yardage markers? I mean, 3 degrees up, 3 degrees down. It's like, it was cool. Anyhow, it was a very fortunate part. I don't only know a few people here. Me and Jim were roommates years ago, back in the day, back when we were kids. He's a slob. He was my fucking roommate for 2 years, and it was like the odd couple. You know, I mean, he taught me how to chew and drink beer at the same time. But he didn't chew a little bit, he did 3-finger chews, like this. And he would sleep with his girlfriend, wake up with the same chew in his mouth, and I'm like, Jim, are you fucking kidding me? The only guy I ever knew who would read the Sunday paper while sitting on the toilet with the door open to the bathroom and talk to me while I'm doing work in the house or whatever. I'm like, Jim, you're taking a crap, buddy. And this went on for like an hour. He's crapping and reading the newspaper. I mean, I don't know if it took a long time to crap or he was in a good story. I never figured that whole thing out. And I don't know if anybody there knows about the sack bat. I don't know if I can go into the sack bat, but yeah, that's Jim.
No, you can't.
You can figure it out on your own. That's crazy. There's some stories. Me and Jim, we hung out in Jackson, Wyoming with Bill. We cruised up. We took the Gallatin. This story's not for anybody here except for me and you. Me and Bill. Me and Jim. And Bill. We went to the Gallatin, we went to the Cat's Paw, we went to the fucking Crystal Bar, we saw Cash, we went fishing in the Gallatin, we drank a lot of beer, we had a good time as kids. When I returned back to Washington, I was dating this girl. You know, we all have these love lives. I was in love with this girl. She didn't love me, but I loved her. And we were driving home, and she didn't love me, and I loved her. And Jim told me the coolest thing ever. He said, "Fucking, you need to lose that bitch. Because that girl does not love you. You need to lose that bitch. Everywhere she goes, you pick up her purse, you pick up her coat, you pick up all of her shit. Just quit. Get rid of her." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." You remember that? He goes, "Just lose her." I go, "Okay, Jim, all right, I'll do the best I can, but I really love her." So I flew back. Me and Jim drove from Wyoming back to Seattle. Back the last time he was there, we drove in this old piece of shit car I had, and we drove the whole way. We smoked dope every 5 miles, mostly because we were smoking. Can I say that? We were smoking lots of weed. Every 5 miles, Jim was smoking weed, smoking weed, smoking weed, smoking weed, smoking weed. Well, I dropped him off at the airport, and I don't even know if he knows this story, I left the airport, rolled down the window, and threw my fucking weed out the window. And the pipe, and everything else I had to do. I quit smoking weed for 5 years because of him. I was tired of smoking dope because of him.
I didn't inhale.
We smoked way too much dope. I had some notes here. I don't know if I can remember all this shit I was supposed to say. Mostly, all of us who know Jim, what I love about Jim is, sometimes I think I'm funny, but I'm not really funny. Jim is fucking funny. I mean, he's fucking funny. So you gotta hang around people, that's infectious. You know, it carries on. And what he's going through, I have no problem. I mean, any miserable thing I got going in my life, I am the architect of all my fucking problems. Jim is fighting through the best craziest, coolest thing. I don't even know what he's going through, but I know, I feel it in my heart. People don't even, I own a bar outside Seattle. People that don't know him know what he's going through because I'm fighting it through him, through his eyes, for my people. I love Jim. He's a wonderful person, and he's going through hell, and I'm here for him, man. I came here and for no reason, and I'm standing up here, and I met Rich and all these wonderful people. God bless all of you. Jim, keep going, buddy. Keep going.
I got out of that one a lot better than I thought I would.
You smoke pot?
No, it's legal in Washington.
Yeah, a lot of people do out west.
That's when you think you start to know somebody. I didn't see you smoking pot. All the frickin' beer you drank, you smoked pot too.
When it was offered to me.
We're gonna get to that later, that's true. This son of a bitch never had a penny to his name. Drunk every night. Okay, here we go. Big Bad Bill Middleton. Come on, Bill.
Gotta have some more room for people that forgot.
Well, after Alan's performance, you should prepare to be disappointed. That's what I have to say about that. I met Jim in 1985 in Jackson Hole, back when he was, I think, a mere 23-year-old, 80-year-old. I was the butcher and he was doing God only knows what. But he used to take the hang around the butcher shop, and I'm not sure why. I think somebody probably told him if you want to meet women, he should hang out at the meat market, and he probably got a little confused. But the fact is, he ended up working in the butcher shop, which was to everybody's entertainment. And you cut me, you kind of stand together in a room. It's pretty quiet. There might be a little music playing, but you have a lot of time to talk. And I pretty quickly realized this guy had more stories than a skyscraper. And I kind of feel like a virtual Lebanonian by virtue of all the stories I heard. I was, somebody was talking about the pledge night and drinking a mug of 6 beers. I mean, that was Tuesday. I mean, that's that. And Jim's probably happy that I'm here and that there's a roast and he's not involved in having to cut it.
37 chickens.
I'm not sure.
Chickens, Al.
Like everybody else, I'm not sure what natural refers to, but I can assure you it's not meat cutting. And I was really happy to hear the coach talk about his lack of natural hand-eye coordination, because I experienced that a lot firsthand in those few months. He went to the clinic so often, I actually thought he kind of had a thing with a nurse. If they had frequent flyer miles for stitches, this guy could have gone to the moon. So that summer had kind of a lot of stories, as you can imagine. There was what might be history's most creative interpretation of a toga during a toga party that Jim attended. And the sack bat, of course, which I won't get into, and again leave that to everybody's imagination. One of the incidents, I just heard story after story about, skiing and this accident and car accidents and breaking every bone ever. And he didn't break any bones that summer that I'm aware of, although there was that incident. He showed up one morning and told me about how they were all out. He was standing in the back of somebody's pickup truck, fell out and landed on his head. So I'm not sure if they heard that at Mass yet. That might be a material fact. Anyway, so we spent the summer in Arizona. Obviously, a lot of time together. Or in Jackson Hole, and worked in Arizona together as well. Had a near miss in St. Croix. Met up in Pennsylvania once briefly. Oddly enough, I didn't hear from Jim at all when he was in Hawaii.
What would you do?
You know, so he moved to the vineyard the exact same time that I moved to Boston, as fate would have it. And I didn't know anybody in Boston, and Jim quickly began to wish he didn't know me because I spent every weekend on the vineyard. Every weekend on the vineyard with Jim. And so we'd go down and kind of catch his act, and you know, at the Harbor View and whatnot. And he had taken to every Sunday, he would hang out at the Wharf Pub. And it was a sight to behold. Because he would set up station, and he had it all going. It was a bottle of red, like usually a Jordan Cab, a Crown Royal, a beer, probably usually a Harpoon. And then somewhere in there was maybe a cognac or something. And this was all going simultaneously. He had the remotes for both the TVs in the bar, the Sunday paper laid out, and it was naked. Like command center. Later in the day. So it was command central. We used to call it the James Seymour cocktail buffet. It was just all laid out, and there'd be sort of courses of food. But what was most amazing about it is every employee at the Harbor View, probably Shannon included, would come by, and it was like he was holding court, like he was the Godfather. They would come and genuflect and say, you know, Susie's mean to me during my shift. Can that busboy, he sucks. Can we do something about him? It was really something to behold, to just watch this guy just sit there, and that was his management style, just kind of cycle them all through. So my weekends on the vineyard actually didn't slow down when he met Shannon, and they lived together and ultimately got married. I was not to be deterred. I showed up probably more frequently than maybe I was welcome. But I didn't view that as a deterrent. In fact, I thought I had a new partner in crime. And this got maybe its most exquisite instantiation the day that we showed up at the Harbor View, demanding a window seat, and it was Mother's Day brunch. He loved it. It just, it was the perfect sort of ultimate,
600 people for Mother's Day brunch.
602, Jim. But we got the table. It was a lovely time. So anyway, we've shown up a lot during each other's lives, and we've always had this thing. We lived different places over the years. We could go a year or two without talking, but it was as though we had talked to each other yesterday. Nothing ever changed. There wasn't that gap in time. I would say in summary, it was fascinating for me. I mean, I was there the day Jim had his first sort of professional interaction with food, and to watch that rise. I mean, if somebody would have told me that day in the butcher shop in Jackson Hole that Jim would be the sommelier at the Mauna Kea, the food and beverage director at the Harbor View, I would have said, no way. No way. I mean, this guy, how can you taste anything with that much dip? If your system can withstand that, you're all set. And so it just that trajectory is just really impressive. And it's the things some of the other people say, the coach and whatever, just that perseverance, that commitment, that every day just showing up and grinding it out is absolutely true. And that's the essential match. And that's what will get you through this.
Anybody want to go before me?
I got one more thing to say.
All right.
Me too, Uncle.
I've never had a job where I had to wear a lot of white shirts or press shirts. I mean, this is it. I'm a slob. Jim taught me how to do laundry when you don't really do laundry. That would be hanging your shirts up on the curtain rod and taking aerosol Rite Aid and spraying them down. I don't really think that's laundry, but it was fucking funny. Remember that?
Yes.
How about Christmas Day when the fucking kid in our apartment complex got this fucking big wheel, and right outside of our door was like a 1-foot ledge, and this little brick was riding around, bam, 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 bam. That went on for like 20 minutes, bam, bam, bam. Jim put a block. Little bastard couldn't do it anymore. And his mom came down and ratted us out. Do you remember that, Jim? He blocked it so the little kid couldn't have fun. Christmas Day. It's Christmas. What an asshole. So I came all the way here just to say my 2 beats. God bless you, Jimbo.
Anybody else? Come on. All right, it's me and you, kid.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Tell you what, you better take a dump with the boat.
Just fill it up.
Do you have to go to the bathroom?
No.
All right, before I get going, I'm going to read a lot of letters sent to me. People sending money. A lot of people sent me money with nice notes. I got this letter yesterday. Dear Jim and Rich, really bummed I can't make it to the event. I will be at a trade show in Dallas where attendance is mandatory. It would be great to see you all after so many years. Can you believe it's been 30 years? I have many fond memories of you guys and the times we had at Plymouth. Please find the enclosed check. Feel free to do with it what you want. Whatever makes you happy during this difficult time. Natch. I can still vividly picture you in mind. You're a hard guy to forget. I still remember you coming over to crank Molly Hatchet on my stereo, to pissing in the corner of the room, and kissing breath almost having a brain hemorrhage over it. You two were and still the only 2 guys that I know that could buy a case of beer each on a Saturday night and consume it all. Natch, from the first beer to the 24th, your personality never changed. You were a big teddy bear. Rich, on the other hand, ... Gary Collins. That's pretty cool. I gotta believe 90% of the women look at their husband tonight and said to themselves, why didn't I meet Natch first? Huh? These guys let you off easy. You guys have no ideas what this freaking guy's done. You guys, and I get why you did, and it was awesome that you did. I'm not gonna. I got clean stuff, I think. Right? We spent a lot of time together. So we're still.
Mark, speak into the mic. Yeah, because they're talking in the back.
We'll tell them to stop talking.
I know, we're trying.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna go right from high school right on through the line. Marty was right, Natch played every sport there was. He played basketball, baseball, football. He skied, and he drank. He was a role player for sure. He just never figured out the role. That punt that Marty was talking about was actually a double sound. It was the sound of the ball off Natch's foot, then the ass. Ta-doom. And everybody, from that day on, Natch was the great white punter. What number did you wear, like 62 or 62? That was a million years ago. I don't know how I can remember that. You stunk. So what happened was, Marty used to play golf. When I had just right at the end of our high school career, became good friends with Natch. Marty played golf, Pud's silly. We used to go to the Cape every year for this little trip. We used to stay at like the Ivanhoe, the Ivanhoe, or whatever it was. It was like in Hyannis or somewhere, right? And this was like, I'm telling you, this was 35 years ago. And I know we drank 2 Borg beer, me and him. We drank 1 million, Pudge had 1, Marty had a half. Right? And we were like 16 and 17, so nothing's changed. So we're up there, it's cold out, it's in the springtime, and Natch has this putter. And this pro comes out on the putting green, he's like, let me see that putter. Yeah, it was my father's putter, he sucks at golf, but you know, he's got this, let me use this putter this week on this trip. The guy looks at Natch, he goes, that's an Arnold Palmer original. He goes, really? He goes, the pro goes, I'll give you $50 and a putter of your choice in the pro shop. And I actually talked you into doing that. You were hesitant. You were thinking more like $50 and a case of beer. So what happened was, we went out and played, he had to think about it. We come back in, he got the beer, and the guy got the putter. Now, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones. We're calling home. That putter's gone, but we're still at the Cape. Now, we're talking 100 years ago. That freaking putter was worth $750 then. That thing's worth about 20 grand today, kid.
Another financial move by me.
Natch always bought high and sold low. I actually, Natch was 2 grades below me. What I knew about Natch was he was always at the friggin' parties. He was an underclassman. I guess I was if I saw him there. Ginny, we didn't drink, we were in high school. But Natch was always at the parties. So when Natch was in his younger days, Jig Purrington, who's here tonight, his parents always had really good cars. His father owned Herb Sunoco. For some ungodly reason, Jig let Natch use his family car one night. And Natch was overserved. He had to be 16. You couldn't have, you were 16. He's 16 years old. He comes down the 3 hills on Young Street. He takes the left-hand turn and he keeps turning left. He goes right over the stone wall, right through the fence, just misses the house. He jumps out of the car and says, I knew I should have hit that fucking cat. That weren't the only car he totaled in high school. Just like Jack said, he had his father's rig out. What was that, a big green rig?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, he had a big green rig.
What a fury!
Yeah, he's up on Mount Support Road, up above the high school, up by Oscar's trailer park.
Yes.
Drunk again?
Yep.
Yep, me too. Drunk again, drives off the road, hits his freaking head, he's hurt. He walks up to Oscar's trailer park to none other than Jimmy Vanier's trailer. Jimmy Vanier is drunker than Natch. Natch knocks on the door, he says, listen, I need some help. He says, what happened? He says, I just totaled my car. My father's gonna kill me. He says, come on in. He says, look at my head. He goes, my freaking head. He goes, I hurt my head. He says, here, take this fucking popcorn, put it on your head. And he says, while you're at it, have a Miller. Still in high school, Natch is one of his old brides, Nancy Merrill, now Nancy Peavy, arguing, passes a car on a double yellow line on the Meriden Road. The car puts its blue lights on. pulls him over, he says, "Did you see me?" He says, "Obviously not." The cop says, "You just passed me on a WOR." He says, "Get out of the car. You've been drinking?" "I had a couple." Puts a dime on the hood. You know the old dime trick? The old dime trick. Pick up the dime. So the cop puts the dime down on the hood of the car. Natch walks over and goes, Cop says, "Don't you wish, kid." I believe it was Dennis Elliott.
It was Dennis Elliott.
It was Dennis Elliott, and he writes this long letter to Natch's mother, and he brings you home. And dumbass takes the letter and puts it right on top of the garbage can. So his mother walks right in the door first thing, reads the letter. Right? He's going to hide it from his mother. Right? And shit hit the fan. Well, I mean, you only totaled like 6 cars at that point, so you're good. We're still in high school here. Right?
Unfortunately.
Another time, Natch comes home, drinking. We're in high school still. His father's room, his mother's room were directly below his room. He's got the ladder out. He's 3 in the morning. He's climbing up the ladder. His father opens the window. He says, "What the fuck are you doing?" Natch looks down at his father and says, "I'm trying not to wake you up." I mean, there's just so many. I mean, another time he got out for school like 4 in the morning, his clock shut off, he walked to school, he realized nobody was there, he walked back home, right? I mean, you...
With my skis on my fucking shoulder.
I mean, I wasn't even in the kid's grade and I know all this shit. I mean, that's why Nate and Chuk and these guys should be up here, because they know. Okay, so we graduate, I take 2 years off after high school, Natch got a diploma at Lebanon. Off to Plymouth State we go. Okay, this is what kills me about Natch with what he has right now. He can't remember his kid's name. This was 1979. You know this kid's name, right? Don't say it. You know the kid's, my roommate's name? Don't say it. Do you know it?
The first one?
Yeah. Don't say it.
I know it.
Okay. So this is 1979. Do the math. 4 years ago. He's in Grafton, I'm in Blair. My guy doesn't show up. This is actually the start of my downfall. This guy doesn't show up. This is the start of a 34-year unbelievable relationship that will never end. My guy doesn't show up, and his name was...
Piet Hein Dankelman.
This Piet Hein Dankelman. Right? So Piet Hein doesn't show up for like 4 days. So Natch finds me, we're playing pickup hoop, we're in college for like 4 days, we're playing hoop every day, right? He's like, "Did Piet Hein show up?" It was like a running joke with me and him. I said, "He's not here yet." And, he says, "You think I could room with you?" I said, "Yeah, sure, yeah." I mean, I never slept with Natch. Let me tell you something. No one's spent more nights in one room than me with Natch. That's including Shannon. And it's a freaking nightmare. Now that was the start of it. He's like, "Can I room with you?" I go, "Yeah, sure, you can room with me. We're both from Lebanon, that's cool." Right? Boy, was that a fucking mistake. That was the start of it, right there. Okay, he had the broken noses. I didn't know about that. I did, but I didn't know he had 15 of them. And this guy snored like a freaking grizzly bear, and it was unbelievable. Okay, and then throw in 42 beers a night, you get the point, right? So we start rooming together. And my first real bad experience with him, First of all, he was always bare ass. These guys are always bare ass. He slept bare ass, the covers were never on him, freaking moaning and groaning. Went to the bathroom 14 times a night, drank 17 cups of water. Just one of them guys. So my first real experience with you, he came home totally bombed, just a little more than me. You're up in the middle of the night, he's grabbing the bed, he's grabbing the bottom, he's going, I gotta piss, I gotta piss, I gotta piss. I'm like, and he's sleepwalking. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I gotta piss, I gotta piss, I gotta piss. I go piss! Jumps back in bed, goes to sleep. Right? Woke up in the morning, he pissed. That was the start of it. I think it got past 24 years. So, what happens is, now was very comical. Natch was a legend there for his whole time. He didn't, and I'm going to get to the classwork here shortly. But he got to the point where he'd just come home, he'd just out. I mean, he'd be sleeping for the frickin' door open. Not sleeping, wasn't REM, but he was out. And then we started writing on him. Like, we would just paint his fingernails, toenails, right asshole on his forehead. So we did everything. I remember the first, and he sweat like hell when he slept, so it always ruined his sheets. That would have pissed him off about it. But the first time we ever did it, he gets up, and I'm waiting for it. Because the bathroom was right across the hall. Right? You just get up like he did, bare ass, walks across the hall, and hear that door close, and all of a sudden hear, honest to God, he comes in, he walks in the room, I go, what happened? He goes, those fucking girls from Mary Lyons. He always thought the girls did it. It was everybody in the freaking dorm. How we met Greeny and Danny Poisson and Richie Cano, you guys still here? He did? These guys went to Plymouth they both went for 1 year. They came here tonight, we haven't seen those guys since 1979. Richie Cano, Danny Poisson is the vice principal at Lebanon. They were our only two friends in the dorm. Right, they lived across the hall, we played up and down the river every night. Every single night. Well, this one particular night, and a lot of you know this story because it's kind of a Greeny, but it is a Natch story. This guy was like Mr. Popcorn. Not only did he drink, but he loved the freaking popcorn. Didn't always eat it, but he always made it. So we're playing up and down the river with Richie Cano. We were drinking Fort Schuyler that night. We had a billion of them. They had them orange caps. And Greeny's, I don't say we hated Greeny. First of all, you knew what a Jewish person was, I had no clue.
Not really, I didn't.
Well, you kept calling him a fucking Jew. I didn't know what a Jewish person was. He called Greeny a fucking Jew. Whatever, I thought we were all Catholic at that point. So anyways, we always see Greeny go by all the time. He's got his number 44 Greenberg. He went to friggin' Wilbraham Monson. He definitely was on the practice squad. Whatever. And so this one night, he just caught us on a terrible night. Comes down, and he says, you got any popcorn oil? Nope. You don't? No. All right. Comes down a half hour later. You guys been down to some house? I go, what the fuck you think? We got 4 guys here locked in the goddamn room playing up and down the river. We're not going anywhere. He comes down an hour later, says it again now, he's pissed. He's got an empty bottle of popcorn oil. Right? Greeny comes back, said, hey, we just went down to some house, here you go. He goes upstairs, we friggin' penny ourselves in the room. We got this room wedged so fucking tight, you couldn't get in, couldn't get out for a month. And all of a sudden you hear it coming. You hear the door slamming, you son of a bitch! It's piss! Little Natchy boy pissed in the popcorn deal, gave it to Greeny. He got it up there, started boiling. And that is how Greeny ended up being my best friend from that, because of that one prank. Unbelievable story. And here's the better part of this story. Greenie gave Natch the popper, he cleaned it up, used the son of a bitch.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so you know, that's that brain tumor kicking in. Pledging, the guys were talking about pledging. It was a joke for me and Natch. He was right. We drank everything and everything. We ate everything. We both laughed our way through it. We did that anyways. You know, when Natch, T. Manzo, and Greenie were the head of the class, they should have been shot. They were like 3 bad cops who had a fucking badge and absolutely abused those pledges. And I was so pissed at Greenie, that's when I actually quit the fraternity. These guys finally had some authority for the first time in their lives. So Pete Ferrelli, you did a great job. I'm not telling the story because I know you guys get screwed. I mean, you got Greenie wearing the Snoopy and the fucking Red Baron hat with goggles. He was called himself the master of disaster. I called him numbnuts. What were you? The sidekick and freaking Mighty Mouse over there, wearing a scarf, whatever he was doing. You know what? The pledging, we had so much fun with it. They needed pledges. We had 30 guys from our dorm, and it was one of the coolest things I ever did. I'd do it again. I don't know if I could drink that much, but it was awesome. Natch used to bring Greenie home on the weekends. I used to bring him home, but he actually got stuck with Natch a couple times. First time he goes to Natch's house, Natch's parents were a little older. We get in the house, we go in, I go get him, we get in the car. Greenie's in the front seat, Natch is in the back. Greenie looks at Natch, he says, "How long have you been living with your grandmother?" Natch goes, "What'd you say?" He goes, "How long have you been living with your grandmother? Where the hell's your mother?" I go, "That is his mother." Oh, Jesus Christ. So anyways, Greenie was a great Jewish kid, as it turned out. At that point, he wasn't the effing Jew anymore. So Natch takes him duck hunting, right? Kid's from Sharon, Mass. His idea of hunting is like Easter morning looking for an egg. He's Easter egg hunting. He ain't hunting. They take him on the Connecticut River. They put him in the middle of the field behind Wendy's, driving a standard pickup. He's never driven a standard pickup. He's never shot a gun. He's never seen a duck. And they tell him, "Go down there and sit on that rock." And off he goes. Through the field, shimmying. He didn't know how to clutch. Right? He gets out there, the ducks fly by, no shots. He's like, "What the fuck's Greenie doing?" He's sleeping. Right? Next thing they hear, bang, bang. Here comes Greenie down the river in a canoe. 2 cardinals.
Honest to God, we shot some ducks and we're holding the ducks up. And then he reaches in the canoe, pulls up 2 cardinals.
I'm only on page 1 stuff. Tubing was big at Plymouth State. Go up, get a ride up the river, 2 miles. I think most guys that was with it, how much did you drink, Fats, on a tubing trip?
Probably just a rack.
Right. He drank way more than that. He was unbelievable guy. Our first time tubing, it's me, Greenie, and Natch. Me and Natch go 12-pack Bud Pounders, right? We ain't got the net, we didn't know, we'd never been tubing, we got the strings and and it's cold, it's like 3 days in the spring, I mean, we're breaking ice. But those freaking Bud cans and that water looks so freaking cool. We get them on strings, and we get going down the river, and it's like 8 feet deep, and all of a sudden, you see that 12-pack sit right on the bottom. And Natch goes, "Rich, look at your fucking 12-pack. I pull up my string and I go, Natch, look at your fucking 12-pack. It was his. We had to go in. So we finished the tubing. That weren't enough. We go back for round 2, same day. Well, we were pickled at that point. We had no reason for going back, but that's what we did. We get right back up. We only drink a 6-pack. It's getting late. It's getting chilly, and I'm going to tell you, when we get out of that tube, how many times did we walk up and roll down that fucking bank in the water? We just kept walking up the bank, falling down, rolling down into the water. We were covered in dirt. We were freaking cut out. We had no equilibrium at all. We just spent like 5 hours on the river, drank 20-something beers.
Water's like literally 38 degrees.
Yeah, it was cold as hell. And I can remember that night, because I woke up and we went home. It had to be like 5, I'm guessing. I woke up at 2 in the morning, and me and Greenie were cooking steakums, and old Natch is knocking on the door. We're giving it the yell, who is it? We didn't let you in that night, kid. That was a hell of a day. I never ever forget that day. Natch liked to poop and pee in a lot of places. On this, I gotta tell this one.
Go ahead.
So, it wasn't the same trip, but it's kind of the same idea. I see Natch, he's across the river, and he's off his tube, and he's over there, and that water's just, it's right just above the median part of his rear end. And he's facing the currents coming this way. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm wiping my ass. And I said, you must be full. All right, he drank minimal 6 nights a week. He set the record that I know of. He had 44 straight days. Natch he's had 3 lines his whole life. Do you want to go out tonight? Was one of them. You won't believe what happened to me last night. And I don't have any money. The answer was, yes, I'll go out. Yes, I will believe what happened to you, because it always does. And no shit. The guy never had a freaking, I don't know how you drank all you drank with no money. I know Steve King and the other guy looked up to you. Unbelievable. You know how you did that?
Businessman.
Yeah. Whatever.
They're businessmen.
Yeah, well. Okay, so Natch, he did take a class. I know he took 1 class. This was my last year. I was rooming with Shane. We were in Hull dorm. We had made an attempt that year to get an apartment. I lived in Blair dorm for 4 years. I loved the dorm life. I loved being around the guys. I loved the music. I loved everything about the dorm. But me, T, and Shane decided we were going to live off campus. Those guys I already had. I never had. So we get together the first night. It's the friggin' Larry Moe and Curly show. We're like sleeping in the same mattress. We got the box spring in the mattress. So we're all 3 of us. We got 1 cup, 1 fork, 1 spoon. We got booted out of there in like 4 days. And it wasn't our fault. Seriously. So, me and Shane got us into a dorm because at that point, I wasn't really being loved on campus. I'd been there a little bit too long as far as most people were thinking. But Shane got us into the dorm. So Natch had the class, the easiest class at Plymouth State, Sex and Family Living with Dr. Spalding. Right? You did great in the sex part, flunked the living. But he had a midterm. and he brings it to me. And this midterm has got this big red F. And I had it on my door for a month. The kid's got one class. I mean, come on, sex and family living. You know, what do you do when you don't want to get pregnant? Birth control. You know, it wasn't that tough of a class. You actually had to go to class. That was probably the killer. So he gets this F, so I'm looking over his test, and there's a 25-point question. And it has a minus 25, and this is the answer that he writes. Dear Dr. Spaulding, I have way too much respect for you to bullshit you right now. I know every kid in this class who doesn't know the answer is going to write something stupid. I would never waste your time. I'm reading this thing like, what? What you think you're going to get? Minus 24 for the effort? Is that not true?
True.
We had a New Year, the fact that he drinks all this frickin' fancy beer and that kind of oil bullshit, it wasn't always like that. And I'll get to that in a minute. But we used to spend our New Year's Eves together. And I had a girlfriend at the time, he had a girlfriend, I had a broken leg. I actually think Leafy was there for the beginning of the night. What we used to do in those days was, we'd buy a 12-pack of Heineken. We drink the good stuff first. And then we got half bombed and go to Milwaukee's Best. We had an unbelievable New Year's Eve, me and him. The girls obviously didn't. Well, I wake up in the morning, I can hear my girlfriend talking to my mother. She goes, you know what Rich did last night? He drank a case of beer. And I'm just laying in bed. I know I'm in deep shit with my mother. So I avoid her for a couple days. I finally walked in the house on Maple Street. She goes, can I ask you a question? I go, sure. Are you numbered in a fucking post? I go, what? She goes, you drank 24 beers on New Year's Eve? I go, yeah, I might have 22. She goes, why the hell would you do that? I said, Natch did. She says, you're not Natch. So, we get out of college. Some of us graduated, some of us were about to. 12 more years. We worked the summer jobs. It was me, Chook, Nate, Natch. We all decided we were going to save $1,000. We were going to move to Montana because Chook went to Montana State in Bozeman. So we did it. I don't know how much Natch saved. I know Betty pitched in on that. There's no way you saved $1,000, but
800.
yeah, that's what Betty gave him. Okay. Regardless, we get in the rigs. We drive to Montana. It's like
45 hours.
45 hours. We got the Volkswagen Rabbit and Chook's Boo Boo, Malibu. We're switching turns. We get out there. We get a furnished 2-bedroom apartment for $520. And guess who my roommate is? Jimmy Moore. Again. We all get jobs. Me and Chook work in a chocolate factory making freaking chocolate candy. Nate's working in an agri-basics feed plant. What's his name over here is on the night shift at Montana State as the janitor.
Like I said, I'm a businessman.
And the only reason he did that is he could chew on the job. So I'm rooming with this guy. I already knew it. I knew what was kind of coming, but we were getting a little older. And just the shit he would do was just, he'd come home at night, he had a couple nights off. We were totally different schedules. Me, Chook, and Nate were totally different from him. It was like 3 and 1. Well, on the off nights, obviously, he was drinking. He was hanging out with the freaking rodeo guys next door. He's working the rodeo, working the gates with the bulls. He's going to practice with them. He thinks he's Tex Ritter. Got the cowboy hat on. He comes home every night, he's drinking, but this one night, he was Mr. Garbage Bag. He's always got garbage bags. I don't know if you knew what was clean, dirty, but he always, and this one night he comes in, he's got like, he gotta have 10 garbage bags at the foot of his bed, and it was like he was on an ice rink. I could just keep hearing him take a step, bang, to the floor, bang, to the floor. This happens like 8 times. I'm like, walk around the side of the fucking bed, what are you doing? So then he got pissed at me. Next night I short-sheeted your bed, I banged you there, and then was probably one of the funniest things. You had to be there. I know Nate loves this, but when Natch gets up in the morning, it's freaking snot city. I mean, it's the bathroom, the full gauntlet for 15 minutes. Right? So those guys had their bedroom, they were across the way, and I'm in my bedroom, and he's in the bathroom, and it's quiet. I know we're all awake, but we're not talking, and he's in there going through his routine, but it just never ended. Finally, I say, have another beer, you fucking drunk. And it was just like the funniest thing. That's one of the top 3. If you were there, you were so pissed at us. We laughed for 20 friggin' minutes. It just broke the silence. Unbelievable. You know that, right?
Yep.
And now we're going to get to some funny stuff in Montana. Kid was a good fisherman, I'll give you that. We had this thing where we went to the bar a lot. And Montana had corduroy hats. What was the hat that your buddy Cat, the place that Cash worked at?
Well, that was Crystal. That was the Crystal.
Okay, the Crystal Bar. Okay, we were both hat collectors. We had 25 every bar had a great hat. So we're sitting in the Crystal Bar one night. I look at the bartender. I said, "I'd do anything for that pink hat." He goes, "You would?" I go, "Yeah, I love that hat." He goes, "Would you walk naked from the bathroom to the front door, sit at the, have a stool and have a drink and a shot and go back to the bathroom?" I go, "Yeah, all right." Go in the bathroom, take my clothes off, watch, tuck the front door, sit on the stool, drink the shot, drink the beer, walk in the bathroom. I'm like, come on, man. Right? Get up to the bar, get my hat. 2 weeks later, we go to Stacy's Saloon. It is big. The dance floor is twice the size of this. And the businessman's negotiating with the bartender. He goes, "I love those hats. I'd do anything for one of those hats." Guy says, "What would you do?" He says, "I'll walk in the bathroom, take my clothes off, I'll walk to the bar, I'll have a drink, I'll have a shot, and I'll walk back to the bathroom." He goes into the bathroom, I go to the lead singer. I said, in about 3 minutes, this big, fat, naked guy is going to come walking across the dance floor. I said, "If you can stop the music and turn on the lights, that would be much appreciated." We're sitting at the bar, we all know what's coming. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know what he's going to do. All of a sudden, you see the light of the bathroom. It's packed. I mean, this place is packed. Here he comes. The lights come on, it's, "Ah!" He goes running back in the bathroom. That was one of the coolest things I ever saw. That was one of the coolest things we ever did. That was so fun. I probably shouldn't tell this story, but I'm gonna. When I left early, I left in like March. I was coming home. We had a big party at a buddy's house that me and Nate had worked with at the feed plant. We were drinking it up. We get up in the morning. We had a good time. All our friends were there. We had a ton of friends out there in Montana. And Stu, he's looking for his keys. He's like, "You seen my keys?" I go, "I ain't seen the keys." He's surprised I remember being here. He's out back, like, I don't even know if he's looking at flowers. I mean, he's just like, he's definitely pondering his life. Like you just see him. I look through the window, he's out there gazing around, like, what the fuck's he doing? And all of a sudden, you hear Stewie go, "Who the fuck pissed on the couch?" And then he says, "In the magazine rack." And this kid's outside. He knows it's coming. He knows it's coming. He's outside. Me and Dave, Stu was pissed, obviously, because his parents were coming home. It was like a one-night deal. He was supposed to have a party. His buddies come over, pissing all over the house, right? That was, I mean, you did a lot of crazy shit. That was so funny. We had a basketball team out there. It was me, Natch, Chook, Nate, the ski jumper, a couple guys on the rodeo team. And we were pretty good. We were a pretty good team.
Yeah, Rich used to score 102 points, we'd score 20.
I remember one night that Natch scored 30-something points in a game and they put Chook's name instead of Natch's, and Natch was so friggin' pissed. He said the Bucks go home to his mother. He said, "That's supposed to be me." So anyway, we're playing this game. Let me tell you something. I literally have not slept for like a week. I've been laying in bed the last 3 nights at like 3 in the morning, just laughing as loud as I can, thinking of this shit. It's all just been coming to me. If we had a couple more weeks, we'd be here a while. So we're playing basketball. Basketball, you have to be able to think one step ahead of the next guy. You got to have a touch. And you just got to see the floor. He couldn't do any of that, and that's already been explained. He's on the right wing, I'm on the left wing. The way that we usually do that is you pass it to the point, you pass it to the wing. But Natch was going shortcut. He's right wing, I'm left wing. He throws this ball 8 feet over my head. And there is this little kid sitting on the bleachers, and this freaking ball hits this kid. This freaking kid's head just goes. And I'm looking at him, I go, "What the fuck you doing?" He's like, "What?" I said, "Fucking get over there and get that kid." You remember that? Yeah. Frankie crushed that kid. He crushed that kid. You remember that, Chuck? Oh my God. I was pissed about the past, no question, but you did crush that kid. He went to Wyoming, he went to St. Croix, he went all over the place. I went to visit him in St. Croix. He says to me, "You know, if you come to visit, I'm really busy, I probably won't see you." The first 5 days we played 36 holes a day and drank from the first tee until the 36th hole. On the 6th day he says, "I'm sick of golf." I said, "Me too." He says, "I don't know how you ever came up with this." He goes, "Let's go snorkeling." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." We looked like Red Lobster. He had those friggin' aloe plants in front of his house. We were cutting. I couldn't even get. I didn't leave the house the next day. He actually had to go to work. That was the worst summer I've ever had in my life. I tell you. Jeez, that was a great trip, though. So he leaves us. He's drinking Old Milwaukee's best. He's drinking whatever he could drink. He comes home drinking Crown Royal in one hand, Heineken in the other, Sierra Nevada. Just an absolute waste of money for the amount of liquor this guy could drink. I kind of ignored it until one night in Florida, we went out to dinner. And we had a free meal because Greeny was a bookie and the guy owed him $2,000. So we've got 5 couples. We are eating for free. Natch is ordering the fucking wine. That free meal cost me $300. That was when I really got pissed about this connoisseur bullshit. Yeah, it was $1,500 freaking bar bill from Mr. St. Croix over here. He works his way to Martha's Vineyard. The greatest host ever. The greatest host ever. Jesus, the trips we had, all of us, Martha and Shane, first time we only had like 10 couples, then they got down to 8, the Fagans, Frank and them, Doug Holman went on a trip, the Durkees, we did it every year for like, seemed like forever. Natch, it was the same old deal, you pull in, yeah, I'm here for Natch, who's Natch? What's his name? Jim Moore. Oh, Mr. Moore, same thing as Pete said, Mr. Moore. I'm like, what? Mr. Moore? Like, I don't tell you how many people have gone to his hotel and called me and said, what's Natch's name? What's Natch's name? Yeah. Jim Moore. Really? I never knew that. I bet you at least 12 people have called me and said, what's Natch's name? I bet the hell Jim Moore.
Happened to Plymouth State a lot too.
So, we go down there one night, and we're getting after it. We're at this bar called Robert Ryan's, or
David Ryan.
David Ryan's. Actually, Jen and Frank were on that trip. T-Manzo's there, Shane and Martha. And supposedly it was a big secret that Mr. Moore drank. That's how it came across to me. He's walking up to the bar, hey, don't tell anybody I'm drinking. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So we got to the point into the night where we were going to get the son of a bitch because he was living a lie. We all knew it. So we had the whole bar. We owned the whole corner of the bar. And there goes Jimmy Moore to take a leak. And the chant starts. There goes Jim Moore. We got the place rocking, right? He's going to take a leak. Got everybody watching. He comes out of the bathroom. Here comes Jim Moore. The whole place, even his workers are rocking it. And he's looking at me. He gets so pissed, he leaves. And at the same time, the whole bar goes, good night, Jim Moore. That was so cool. You were so pissed. The one thing that stuns me, and everybody who really knows you, you've always had a nice freaking girlfriend. You've never had a bad girlfriend. Your girlfriends are cool. Shannon, none of us had the nerve to rescue you. We couldn't tell you about the journey you were about to set on. But you are one hell of a woman, very special. The wedding was awesome. It was a Mickey Mouse theme. Shannon's family's been at Disney World more times than freaking Mickey Mouse. Greenie was wearing a purple pimp tuxedo. Natch did pass out in my room on his wedding night. I gave the speech that night. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and I was thinking the other night that I actually lied. It was 16 years ago. Natch, 16, he called me up the other day, he goes, you know what I'm doing? I'm looking for a card. I go, for what? He says, I've been married 16 years today. I go, he says, I bet you had the under. I said, we all did. That night I told the crowd that on Natch's wedding night, that me and Natch had 3 things in common. Sports, drinking, and storytelling. I felt that night like I was the better athlete. I thought he was a better storyteller. I thought drinking was a push. I don't think that anymore. I'm going to have to forfeit the title to you, kid. You've lived quite a life. First had kids. Brutal. You think he's the first guy who ever watched his kid for 30 seconds. And he's still doing it. This is the crazy part about this. when Shannon was pregnant with Cam, this second baby, what's his name over here calls me. He says, guess what I'm doing? I said, I have no idea. He says, I've got Michael. I said, I hope so, he's your fucking son. He says, I'm taking him on the boat. I said, what the hell else did you do with him? Well, that's part of being a father. I mean, this guy was, you're a wonderful person, but Jesus, you're a freaking time bomb. This is a normal conversation with Natch. It was then and it was the other night. Nothing's changed. How old is Michael?
13 next month.
Okay, so it's been 12 3/4 years. This is a typical conversation with Natch. Natch, how you doing? Good. What's going on? Watching the kid. Yeah, I said, where's Shannon? She's working. Michael, get off that counter before I break your fucking neck. So the other night, I call this asshole. Honest to God, 4 nights ago, I call him. And he says, I hear him go, Matty, what are you doing with that cup? I'm like, what'd you say? He says, Jesus Christ, these fucking kids. Because they come home after school, 48 cups, you gotta use 48 cups. I said, listen, everybody's got a cup problem. I said, if I was you, I would buy 3 plastic cups, I'd put their names on them, and I'd put them on the counter. I'll buy those fucking plastic cups, I'll kill them! 13 years later, it's the same bullshit. You know, it's like, he comes to my house, hey Trey, how you doing? Would you like a cheeseburger? Hey Anna, you want to go to the park? You know, it's unbelievable. He's so good with my kids. He's so good with my kids. Somewhere along the line, like Bill said, he turned into a chef. The guy was macaroni, cheese, boiled hot dogs. Now it's 3-hour cheeseburgers on the grill. This guy cooks so fucking long that 4 years ago, he heated up the grill so long that he melted 4 rows of my vinyl siding on my house. Shriveled up here. I said, well, just having burgers, I'll cook them in the goddamn pan. Gourmet, listen, you're a great cook, but it ain't worth the wait. I mean, freaking crazy. He went from here to here. I mean, couple more things, I'll shut her down. And these are probably some of the craziest things that I think, a couple of them that he did. He loved to go hunting in Corbin Park. He was always jealous of me. I'm not a hunter. I mean, to me, hunting is exercise with a rifle. I couldn't hit a goddamn elephant who was standing next to me. And he was always so pissed. He'd call me up, go hunting today? Yeah. That's Augusta. You're going to Augusta. I'm like, what? That's Augusta of hunting. I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? He loves Corbin Park. So I go in, we go in together. He's jacked up. I'm like, I just like to be in there. I like to see the animals. So we go in. We're in section B, and I'm driving because I'm not a good shot. And I know where Natch is. I get in the woods, and son of a bitch, I jump like 25 elk, and I'm on that radio. Here they come, Natch! Here they come! Nothing. Natch! You see them out? Yep, ran right by me. I said, what do you mean they ran right by you? I got the wrong clip for my gun. Couldn't wait to get out there and hunt to Augusta. Forgot his golf clubs. Back then, they had tags on them. They had elk in there for breeding, so they had tags. It was a $1,500 fine, and we all knew it. Every time I got out of the rig, I looked at Joe Willie and I said, I brought $750 today, Joe. I'll pay half. So we're hunting. I don't think it's the same day, but we're hunting. Bang! Who shot? I did. What'd you shoot? Shot a cow. Any tags? I don't know, I'm gonna go check. I'm gonna go check. $1,500 bucks. Do you know how much carb oil that was? It didn't have a tag. He got away with it. It was by accident, believe me. And the guy's got great eyes. Do you still have good vision? Probably the best pair of eyes ever. Besides Courtney Glue's, I'd say you have the best eyes.
His aim sucks.
Huh?
His aim sucks.
Yeah, he can't shoot. He's got great eyes. That's all right. All right. I don't even know where to go. I got 3 or 4. He calls the radio show. I'll work up from the JVs to the varsity. I got 4 more stories and I'm going to shut her down. He calls the radio show. And he's with Shannon. And they're in Long Island. They're going to a wedding. And he's talking. And I think that he thinks he's off the radio. Because he says, "Hey buddy, what the fuck you doing?" I'm like, Natch. Oh shit, I'm sorry. All right. Went to Joe Willie's house. It was definitely in the timeline of the first brain tumor. It's dark out, it's a little foggy. You come off the Etna Road. So you come off the Etna Road, you come to the stoplight there, you got Middle Road across the way, you got the lights, go right to Hanover, left to Lebanon. So he's in front of me, he leaves in front of me, I don't think anything about it. I go straight through over by Wilson Tire, I'm at high school. I don't know why I did, but I did. I get home, he ain't home. I'm like, "What'd you do?" He goes, "What'd I do? You didn't see me?" I don't know, if I saw you, I wouldn't ask you what you did. He said, "Did you see that car sitting on that median on top of that sign?" I said, "Actually, I did." He goes, "That was me." He took that left-hand turn right there, and that big sign's about 8 feet high, and he went right over, sat right on top of it.
Still driving the same car, it's still got the friggin' bumper all torn up from it.
This one here is icing on the cake. My next to last story. A bunch of greenies ago, we had the band down at Shane's house. We had the Bad Dads. And it was a freak. It's going to be just like the end of tonight's going to be. It was a drunk fest. This one wakes up in the morning, cuts all over him. My railing is broken to my cellar. And he comes upstairs and I'm like, "What in the hell did you do?" He said, "When I came home, I had to take a shower." I said, "You did?" He said, "And when I fell down the stairs, I had a towel wrapped around me that I tripped over, and I hit my head on the cement wall. And as I was laying there, Shannon came out and said, 'What the fuck are you doing?' And you said, 'I needed to take a shower.'" So we really didn't get the whole story. went down to Shane and Martha's that morning, and I walked back home. And you gotta know that this particular person had sent out a bunch of emails, pick up your dog shit, I'm sick of your dog shit on my yard, this, that, and I write back, you fucking bored or what? Pick it up. I didn't have a dog, but I just didn't put up with that bullshit. This happens to be the same person. So I'm down to Martha and Shane's, I'm walking up the street, and they've got a porta toilet sitting on the sidewalk. And there on this porta toilet is this pair of Fruit of the Loom underwear that are just covered with shit. And they don't say it, but I know they're Jimmy Moore's. And that old blue and yellow stripe around the waist. And those things stayed up there for a month because no one would touch them. We actually want to make a Christmas card out of that. And then the last thing, and I got to give you this shirt. You're a crazy son of a bitch. I was in the Village Pizza the other night. Craig Patterson was in there, and I was in there with Trey. And I said, "What are you doing?" Said he goes, "I'm going to that roast." I said, "Boy, that Natch was a crazy bastard, weren't he?" He said, "What about you?" I said, "I don't see myself that way." He says, "You should." So when I get called down, probably one of the worst days of my life, besides my parents dying, I get a call from Shannon 4 years ago, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. "You need to come down to Mass General. I think something's wrong with Natch's head. He's getting an MRI. I want you to come down." I got in the car, I drove down there. And we're sitting, it was the same day that Ted Kennedy got diagnosed with this brain tumor, so Natch was kind of on a holding pattern. It was bullshit. And he was gone forever. It's like, he comes out, it was like right out of Cuckoo's Nest. They wheel him in, I'm sitting there with Shannon. I want to say Shannon's sister was there as well.
My sister, my brother-in-law, and my best friend Dad.
So they wheel him in. He's just staring at me. I'm like, "What's up?" I go, "What are you doing?" He ain't talking. I go, "I just drove 2 fucking hours, kid. It's like 2 in the morning. You gonna say something to me?" He says, "Yeah, let me take this chew out." This kid goes in for his MRI for a brain tumor with a freaking dip of Copenhagen in it. And comes out, and we get the news. I'll never forget, she told us what it was. I think she actually misdiagnosed it. She said it was a glioma. Shannon says, "What does that mean? Can we get it? Is it cancer?" "Yes, it is." Like, so matter of factly, it's like, I was dry heaving, and Natch is like, and at that point, Natch goes, "You should just go to my house and go to sleep." I'm like, "We're in Boston," like, to myself. I'll never forget that night. I went home, he beat it the first time. You're halfway there now. You're a homely son of a bitch, but you're halfway there.
Thanks, buddy.
No one loves you like I do, though. So I got you a shirt. I had Chad make me up a shirt. The front of it says, "Sorry, Shannon." The back of it has a big Copenhagen logo that says, "Till death do we part." We've had so many great memories. The good stuff, this is all kidding aside. When I was growing up, he loved to hit golf balls. He loved to hit the pitch and went, Jesus Christ, freaking wore it out. But we used to play a game at Carter where I hit the bunker shots and he putted. And some nights, we played with like 8 or 10 balls. He had to make them all. Of course, we could never do it vice versa, because he couldn't get it out of the fucking sand. But we always we always did that together. I think, and no, we played so many games of horse and out. I don't think anybody has any idea how much time that me and you have spent at the CCB. You trying to beat me in out, horse, pig, Uncle, Louie, Bill, Jimmy. I mean, foul shooting. We did it all. And, you know, when Natch got diagnosed, and here's the thing about Natch. Everywhere I went, every round I've ever played in my life, called me every fucking night. Same message. Have fun. He got diagnosed with a tumor, and I brought him to North Conway to caddy for me. It was the coolest thing we ever did. We got cocked and we played great. You drove the car fucking horribly. But it was one of the funnest times I ever had at a golf tournament with you, because that was when we knew you were in trouble and you were gonna fight it, and it was a hell of a time. You're a tough son of a bitch. And you're the definition of a man. I love you.
Everybody, I've listened to everybody talk about Rich here. I mean, Natch pissing his pants and pissing the bed and everything. But I've gone through the cancer process myself. My wife did, so we've all had it. But I'll tell you right now, it was very mild compared to what Natch is going through. I've been 4 years clear now. Natch was 4 years, I think. And I just want to tell you, he's probably one of the most strongest guys I've ever seen in my life. And I go to bed every night and pray since I've heard that Natch had cancer again. And it's been the same length of time pretty much. And I just pray for Natch every friggin' night of the week. And I just want him to get better. I talked to his wife this morning for an hour, and you just can't imagine what those guys are going through. It's unbelievable. And they are the greatest people I've ever seen in my life. I want to thank Richie, because he's a great guy. He's done everything for Natch that you could possibly do. And he's done a lot for me. And it's just unbelievable that you guys could show up here and do this for Natch. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Natch, you have anything to say?
Everything to cry for? I don't know if I can stand up right now, so I'm gonna sit. I can't believe all the people that showed up here today. Kind of shocked when this whole second diagnosis came up. I had some signs a few weeks before, and I was kind of ignoring them and didn't want to get my wife all worked up about it. And then the symptoms became strong enough, so she picked up on it, and the next thing I know, I'm laying there in a bed, Mass General, hearing them tell me the same things going on, and it was real shocking. But I'm gonna do everything I can to get through it. I got 3 young boys. I don't holler at them all the time. What's that? Just because my second son thinks his name's dumb son of a bitch. No, come on, I'm only kidding. But I can't tell you all how much I appreciate you guys coming out. I can't believe how many people are here. You guys are all special to me. I can't believe Marty Brown comes up from Florida. I can't believe my buddy Alan comes up from Seattle, comes all the way over from Seattle. It's just crazy. And I just want, again, I want to thank everybody very much, and I'm going to do everything I can to get through this.
I want to say thanks so much for this, and I want everybody to shake my hand tonight because I want to thank you. This means a shitload to me for you guys to come. Thank you very much. Go get a bunch. All right, Jill, turn on the music. Dig a little deeper in the well.